What's up, guys? Back again today with a quick post from the Neville sub. It's called It Finally Clicked After 4 Years of Trial and Error. So, here it is. Yes, I tried for 4 years to manifest the big things and it didn't effing work. And now I know why and it makes sense. So I found out about Neville, like many of you, after a breakup. And during this time, I tried everything. Following coach after coach, reading his books and understanding, following another coach, reading Joseph Murphy, doing SATs, meditation, affirmations, mental diet, and everything you can imagine, and failed miserably. I did have some success though, but not the big ones that I wanted. And I have some videos about why this is the case, and you can look them up, why you have trouble manifesting the big things. So I read the books again. The Power of Awareness made it click for me. So I realized the key is to embody the new state you long for. In your mind, you already are what you want to be. Yes, this has been repeated a million times, but I never actually understood what this means. I used affirmations, but I never embodied the new state. I basically was in the same old shitty state, repeating affirmations all day long. Meditation. SATs. I used to repeat my scene over and over, trying to add tones of reality, feeling the relief of having it, but I didn't embody the new state. I was the same. It's like poor you is counting money in SATs. Yes, you feel the cash, the texture, but your state is the same, poor. Embodying the new state is changing basically your self-concept, how you see yourself in relation to your desire. It's like, let's say you want to be a stand-upper, but you freak out on stage. Stand-upper, I don't know if that's another way of saying stand-up comedian, but anyway, your current state of mind is of fear and anxiety and insecurity. So you can repeat a million times, I am confident, but if you don't embody the state of confidence, it won't work. I realize the techniques are just ways to attain the new state until it becomes the natural you. See Kevin Hart on a stage. What do you think is his state regarding confidence? So yes, it makes sense. Now I realize what mental diet is. Whenever you catch yourself drop into the shitty state, adjust it by embodying the new one until it becomes who you are. These are just my 2 cents. And that is the post here. So we got some comments down here. Practical tips are only examples from your own life. Think about the states you have been in your entire life. How do you see yourself in relation to money, love, health, education, etc.? If you struggle with love, for example, you see yourself as someone not good enough, not lovable, etc. This is your current state of mind. So in order to switch to a new state, think who you might be if you were in a loving relationship and try to embody this new state. It's really hard in the beginning since your whole life you have been a certain way. So that's the point of techniques, to train your mind to be in this new state. So somebody said, how do you do it? I understand the affirmation part, but how to embody it? So you got a reply here. It says, it's a slow process. It was a slow process for me, but really it's about changing yourself. When you do get the feeling you already have it, try to hold on to it all day. It's okay if you can't, or if you forget or fail. It's a process. Mental diet really is the best word for it. Just like a diet, you have to stick with it and trust that it'll work. Over time, you will start to have that feeling every day. It'll be your new normal. That's how you embody it. But it takes patience and trust. Patience and trust. For me right now, it's a feeling of peace, security, and love for myself. A month or 2 ago, I could get these feelings for 3 to 4 days, 3 to 4 day streaks before falling back into old habits of anxiety or fear for my future. A month or 2 before that, I could only hold the feeling for a day at most. Now I'm on a 2-week streak of being who I want to be. It's all about self-change, patience, and trust. Edit, also remembering I am, and that we have a higher self that understands and loves ourselves more than we can imagine. I've literally asked myself questions in my mind, and the answer comes to you naturally and sometimes instantly. It's like having Google in your head, except it really knows everything. It's incredible and a power that will help you on your journey of knowing yourself. So, another reply here. I struggled to understand this until I would look back at my old self. I used to be extremely depressed. When you look back, you can feel the vibrational state you were in back then, right? You can feel the person you were years ago in some sense. So with that, you can change into a person you want to be just by feeling the way you would feel in that moment. Say I want a house, for example. I can tap into the vibrational state of how I would feel in my home instead of envisioning a house I want. Practice feeling vibes instead of visualizing. Hold that vibrational state anytime you have doubts, and in time it will come. I manifested my dream body through this method in less than 2 weeks. Anytime I felt it, I wasn't in the vibrational state of having my dream body, I would just tap back into the feeling of already being somebody with that body. And you don't even have to hold on to the feeling all day. If you already have your desire, you'll eventually forget that you don't have it and move on about your day. Interesting. Could you elaborate more on how you manifested your dream body and what changes you've achieved? So here we got a nice in-depth response. Yes, I was trying to get more of an hourglass shape and flatter stomach and overall a little more skinny. I also wanted to change my facial structure to look similar to Bella Hadid and clearer skin, which worked. I had some face fat slimmed down and my cheekbones became more prominent, though they were kind of naturally prominent. I wanted to go with a look that already looked a little close to how I naturally look so I would have less resistance to change. I think that's a great idea. Unfortunately, I didn't weigh myself or take measurements before or after. These things never really mattered to me, so I didn't think to do so. I also think worrying about specifics like this can be a detriment to the process. I would agree. That's why I always am I'm very much a proponent of the vague approach when I talk about the general idea. Whether you are trying to manifest an SP, for example, as many people are, right? That's a huge thing on the internet. Oh, manifest the SP, right? But instead of literally being like, oh, this person loves me, this person, this specific person, you will get a lot of results just by going vague, just by going, yeah, everybody loves me. There's no reason why people wouldn't love me because I'm just an extremely lovable person. And what's so great about that is that your mind is not going to be that resistant to it. Your mind will come up with all kinds of logical reasons if you go super direct just for this one person as, well, they don't really know me that well. I haven't spent that much time with them and they're already like this person and there's a third party and blah, 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 blah. But if you're just a generally lovable person and everybody just loves your energy and you start seeing that reflected in your 3D, it's going to just start making it make more sense and it's going to build it and build it. And you're going to get momentum with that whole process. And now all of a sudden, because everyone, that SP is a person too, right? Are they a person too? Well, if every single person loves you, then goes without saying, right, that they would love you as well, right? Because you're just a naturally lovable person. And so that is the thought process behind taking that vague approach. It will work. It will serve you in a really positive way. And it's great that they mentioned this because I think if you're going for an appearance change as well, having some super specific thing of like this, this measurement on my bust or this measurement on my, whatever, it's just like you're creating more resistance by doing that. But I think I'm not saying those things can't be accomplished, but I am saying that having that approach where you go vague, at least to begin with, is going to have a lot less resistance in the whole process. So, okay, so the way I did this was really just thinking about how I would look with these changes, first of all. Then I made myself feel as if I already was the way I wanted to look. This feeling is such a subtle feeling, by the way, you have to make it feel natural. Best I can describe it as a knowing that you look the way you want. You have to be very detached the way you look now, so no mere obsession. Whenever I thought to myself that I was looking the way I used to, I would go back to the vision of my dream body and that knowing I have it. I would also do this in the shower and speak affirmations into the water and onto my body. I would clean my body with the knowing that I look exactly the way I want. I like implementing water because water holds memory, and after doing this daily for 2 weeks, the changes were already there without me really noticing. My family even noticed before I did. Also, remember that our bodies are constantly changing, so if one day you look like your dream body and the next you look the same as you were before, don't take it as not working. This happened many times throughout the process, but I never got discouraged. So we got a reply, thank you, I totally get it. I've been aware of and constantly using the law for quite some years now, and only recently did I learn that imagination is the only reality and that what you imagine, you must do it to be and not obtain something in the 3D. Okay, so I understand what you mean by detachment. because before I was manifesting to get something rather than just going totally inward and ignoring the false shadow world. Love your comment about the water too. Remind me of Masaru Emoto's water technique or water experiment and how words affect water and thus yourself. Yes, our words are extremely powerful. And that Japanese guy they're mentioning here has done all these, there's all of these different waters that he had and with different labels on them and putting out vibrations of hate, of fear, of envy, and then of love and peace and joy. And the water, the molecules in the water react completely differently. The ones with the positive emotions create these ordered and beautiful structured crystals, and the ones with the hate and the negativity have this like chaotic, just like awful kind of just bad looking, like the water gets dirty and it's just like all this, there's just, it's just phenomenal. And because we're made up of water mostly, it's so like indicative of how powerful all this stuff really is. Because if we're affirming, see, we are always affirming. Just like people say we're always manifesting. Well, the story that we're telling ourselves all the time, because we're constantly thinking, our mind thinks thoughts automatically, is affirming. So if we're telling ourselves those negative stories about ourselves, that we don't deserve it and we're awful and we're not worthy and all this stuff, like that is what is causing, it's wreaking havoc literally on our physical body. And then the opposite of that, we're creating a beautiful like environment for us to live and breathe and be. And that's why stress and like the opposite of stress, peace and joy, will extend your lifespan, extend your health span. You'll get clearer skin. Like it's all reflective, it's all connected. And that's what I love talking about, is the physical, but the spiritual, but also the physical. Like we're all connected, we're physical and spiritual. And so we can use these things in tandem together by eating well, taking care of ourselves, taking care of our physical bodies, and taking care of our mental, emotional, on the mental and emotional plane and the spiritual plane. And we are going to reap the results of the work that we do in both areas. So, yes, our bodies and cells change constantly. By the way, when you said you got clear skin, did you have pitted acne scars? I'm going with an imagination and imagining my skin's perfectly flawless, smooth, clear, glass skin, even though my 3D shows the opposite. And when would you think about how you would look? Would you imagine looking at yourself in a mirror or not? So we got another response now. Right now, my acne has shown back up, probably because of my menstrual cycle, but I did have a very textured skin and pores. I did notice my skin became a lot more smooth and even. At one point, it looked like I had flawless makeup on my skin, so it's 100% possible. A little TMI, but it worked so well that I healed a small rash on my stomach naturally. When I imagined myself, it was a mix of seeing myself in the mirror and sometimes imagining seeing myself in a third person to really see how I would look in that body. That's what I talk about all the time. Imagining in the third person is really, really powerful. It's like someone else can see me with that body, then it will be set in the 3D as well, right? Thank you too. I hope you get your desired look. So they respond, I feel like it's easier to view from the third person rather than first person, so that's why I asked. So you're saying that like you're looking at yourself as if from another person? How long did it take for your skin to clear up? I'm currently on Accutane after years of telling myself, no, I don't need it, and my skin is perfect, affirming, imagining. But I was so tired of breaking out, especially at my age. I have 8 huge zits on one side of my face that I'm sure were caused by stress. But now my goal is to achieve poreless skin / get rid of pitted scars. I already have it in my imagination. So yes, I would imagine myself from another person's perspective. My acne cleared up pretty fast when I was consistent with my assumptions. I would say it took around a week to see some changes. I don't have severe acne, but I do have rosacea, and one of my goals was to get even-toned skin, which worked pretty fast. I don't know how to describe it, but holding that vision of my desire in my mind's eye throughout the day helped me immensely. First perspective visualizing for me was easier to hold longer throughout the day in the mind's eye than third perspective. Focus the energy around your forehead. See it as visualizing, but with your third eye. That's kind of what I did unconsciously. And we naturally assume that we look like, because we looked like that for so long, right? When you make that assumption again, assume you look exactly the way you want naturally. And they replied, thanks for the tips. So, I'm going to read a couple more comments because I think these little comments and these conversations are interesting. So, there's somebody else that asked something above. They said, think about some areas in your life where you have strong opinions about you. When you feel good about yourself, when you are sure about yourself because this is who you are. Now think about areas you want to improve. Try to embody the same clarity about yourself in these areas as well. This is the state you are working towards. Or think about someone you admire, someone who is natural about an area you try to improve. Maybe someone confident, rich, attractive. What is their attitude? These are really good insights inside the comments as well. Someone said gratitude is so important. That's the feeling you have naturally when you finally receive something you really want. So practice gratitude every day. For example, if it's a house you want, then start practicing gratitude for the home you're currently dwelling in. Even if it's awful, just practice appreciating it every day. That feeling in your imagination will eventually sink, and then one day you'll find you're feeling grateful for real whilst standing in the house you've been dreaming of. Good luck. If you attract who you are and what you are to you by saying the best sums it up for me, be the change you want to see. Whatever you want to see in your life, be that, become that thing. If you want more love to come into your experience, be more loving because you attract what you are. Does that make sense? All right, last comment I'm going to read because it's got last couple comments because I got a lot of upvotes. Somebody said, actually, you don't need any of this embodying the state fulfilled stuff. It adds so much pressure. Most people will tell you that it's extremely difficult to reach that. For example, a poor person might not know how to be in a state of being rich, how it feels to be a millionaire. Every time he imagines it, his brain goes, no, you are not, because he hasn't experienced it and doesn't know the feeling of it being fulfilled. Neville handed you the exact thing to do, the not technique. Fastest and most effective from my experience. Removes the resistance you have. And the subconscious does not recognize the negative. So if you say, I don't want to win the lottery, it removes your neediness for it. At the same time, since your mind doesn't recognize the negative, it registers as, I want to win the lottery, which puts the mind into action to make you want in your reality. That's so, yeah, I mean, I've had success using this actually when it comes to relationships. And I did a video on this previously. But let's see. So I got a dream job and successful relationship by this method. Yeah, both only took about a week each. No need for robotic affirmations, raising vibrations, matching frequency, and whatever the bullshit these coaches tell you. All that shit can work too, though. All of that stuff can work. All of it works. The knot technique is meant to show that our imagination is greater than our thoughts. So somebody said, just got this with the SP actually. Logically decided somebody else would be better for me. Next day, he was wanting to meet up. Seems to be a pattern with people that the second they move on, their ex reaches out. Yeah, that is super, very much the case within relationships. But it also applies to our desires as well. It's like as soon as we let go, as soon as we detach and stop having that neediness and that attachment to outcome, that anxiousness attachment style, then we release the attachment, and that's when things are able to flow to us without, that's when things can, we allow them the space for it to show up. And energetically, that's just what works. It's like having a secure attachment style versus an anxious or avoidant. So somebody's asking about visualizing with the knot technique. It's individual. It's not really like a yes or no. It's not black and white. Certain people can just affirm that. Other people can imagine the thing. It doesn't really matter. It's up to you what feels best for you. Okay. I'm gonna wrap it up here, but some of these comments are interesting. Some of them are funny. Let's read like a couple more before I wrap it up. So my problem is I'll be in the state of the wishful feel for like a minute. It's hard for me to stay in it. So it takes practice, but yes, you can be there all the time. The way that I experience it and explain it is it's like flipping a channel on a TV, like going from Cartoon Network to Discovery Channel. You flip your awareness from the 3D world in front of you to a state where it feels like you're looking through it. A good way to practice is always granting your desires in your mind fully in the state. When you do that, ask yourself while in this state, what else do I want? And do it again and again. Eventually, you'll see that you can maintain this state because you get a better grasp of it. Another thing that helped was moving from physical slash material things that I want to the way I want to be perceived. For example, I am the most loved being in the world. People want to please me. Everything goes my way and the world is on my side. The 3D doesn't have power over my inner world, etc., etc. I find that you can always be in those states continuously because there isn't a thing to get, like an object, if that makes sense. Somebody says the last part's so spot on. I don't know why it's so much harder to get in the state of the SP or job I want, but it is. But yeah, like I started embodying a state of not being a slacker at work, actually being confident, competent, calm. And within about a week, my work performance skyrocketed. And I even just casually assumed my supervisor liked me and he was friendly to me and respected me. What do you know? There are times now when it seems like he's actually kind of nervous around me and trying to joke around to get me to like and respect him, with a laughing emoji. But my SP still is cold as ice and other big manifestations aren't seeing any movement. So I don't know. I know this is real, but I really can't seem to relax with the things I really want and care about. And there it is right there, guys. That's why the big things are harder to get movement on, because we have more resistance to them. And really going down and breaking that resistance down is a process. It's not going to just happen. I mean, for most people, it doesn't happen overnight. I'm not going to just make a blanket statement, but for the vast majority of us, it takes that work. It takes that easing off of the goal. That's why certain techniques, like the knot technique, that can really work for relationships. For me, particularly, back during quarantine, back during everything being shut down and whatever, I was like, I got on some dating apps and stuff, but my dad was all like, oh, like you need to find somebody, blah, blah, blah. And I just was like, nah. Like I was like, I do not need to find somebody. I'm like, I'm not looking for a relationship. Even though deep down I was like, it really would be nice to meet somebody. It really would be nice to go out, meet some cool women, find one that I actually like all of that. But I took action, and at the same time, I was just like, yeah, I don't want a relationship. I do not need a relationship. And that is true. I do not need a relationship. I enjoy spending time by myself. A lot of people, and I have a secure attachment style. When I was younger, I used to have, after studying attachment theory, an anxious attachment style. For whatever reason, the death of my mother, whatever, if I was to psychoanalyze myself, that I probably had some abandonment issues going on with that led me to develop this anxious sort of attachment. And of course, we all go through traumatic things in our lives that cause us to bring that into our new relationships, right? And especially with our parents, especially with our upbringing as children, we bring in either those things that we lacked, or we bring in more of what we received that wasn't necessarily healthy. But coming at things with a secure attachment style, whether it's your relationships, which we're talking about now, or your goals, is the way that you will actually sustain and maintain a healthy relationship, or a healthy relationship with your desire, whether it is more money or whether it is the ability to have certain opportunities, a certain career path, a body type that you are wanting to have, right? That super needy energy about the thing is going to repel it from you. So with the relationship thing, it's like I went through the motions. I started going out on dates, and then I was able to actually have a relationship, a long-term relationship, out of the idea, though, that I did not need it. I was like, I'm not necessarily looking for a relationship. That's what I told myself consciously. But at the same time, I took the actions of dating. I did the thing while also lowering the importance on it by telling myself I don't need it, right? That's how the knot technique can work. So let's read this last reply and see what light they have to shed on this subject. So it says, that's fair. I think for big things, it takes more convincing of yourself because there can be more weight, emotions, limited beliefs, etc. Exactly. For them in the 3D. So it's easier to get anchored in the 3D than in the higher state. In my opinion, that's what the concept of blocks/limited beliefs are. It's because there is something inside of us that still doesn't believe that we can do it more that we deserve it. For instance, when you, with your manager, sure, there's some weight/risk there for them to like you. but it's just a job. You don't really give it as much of a shit about them as your SP. It's easier for your inner man to accept that they like you because it's lighter. While your SP or the bigger things, there's a lot more weight to them, a lot more risk, and a lot more to lose if it doesn't happen. And that's true too, because we take it on more as like some sort of indication of our own worth if we're unable to get the big things, the things that have more weight. Which is why Neville always says, prove it to yourself. Start small and work your way up. And that's why this goes right along with my everybody loves me technique. When I say that to myself, when I see that reflecting in my reality, it builds itself up upon from there. And then all of a sudden, the women that I'm actually interested in, well, they are liking me too, because my reality is such that everybody likes me. So of course, the women that I'm actually interested in getting to know better are going to like me too. That's just the logical conclusion to draw. Think about your journey practicing the law, and honestly, what I feel the process of awakening goes for almost everyone. I'll list below. 1, you come across the law and you think, oh, this is neat. Maybe it's real, maybe it isn't. Depending on your previous spiritual experiences / knowledge depends on how much you buy into it initially. 2, you practice it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Most people start big, and when that doesn't work, they quit, complain, or come on here and say how it's all BS. Or you realize there's something to it, and so you try to gauge it. You start small, free little items, sudden days off work, better traffic on your commute, someone calling you that you thought of, etc. 3D is still dominant here. 3, you continue to prove it to yourself, and you get small manifestations all the time, and you really start to begin to understand, holy shit, maybe the 3D really is just a reflection of my consciousness. So you move on to bigger things, people treating you differently, you acting differently, changing your appearance, etc. I call this the first real awakening because it's when you start to see it, but there might still be subtle doubt somewhere in you. You still get pulled in the 3D. 3D starts losing its grasp, the inner world starts gaining control. 4, after a while of consistent manifesting, you start to feel crazy because it's like the 3D and the inner world start a battle. A lot of people quit here too because at this stage you either realize that yes, as irrational as it sounds, reality is just you, or you stay in that constant state of questioning how real the law is. The 3D and the inner world are in a tug of war. 5, manifesting becomes easier. You accept that you are the dreamer and this is your dream. You stop giving an F about what people think about you and your beliefs, and sometimes it still gets to you, but you accept that the only real world is in your imagination and it's only a matter of time before you see it unfold. You might still get pulled into 3D every once in a while because there's still a piece of you that lives there. This is where you notice a shift. Best way as I can describe is when you're constantly looking through the 3D world. 6, you just know it's all you. There's no doubt about it. And really, you don't give a shit about any of the doubts or doubters because as much as you know that you need oxygen to breathe, you know and understand the 3D is you. There's no doubting. There's no waiting for it to unfold. You know it's already done the moment you imagined it. It's peaceful, blissful, and all the stuff Neville said because you truly know it's real. Okay, so let's finish off this post and we're going to end the video. I mean, there's a thought for you. You already got your manager to like you, someone who has no real ties to you, no depth of connection but work to you. That should be harder to do than someone like an SP, who I assume is someone who knows you better and who has more of a connection. Someone you have better rapport with. What's the difference between the two? The weight attached to them, the perceived loss that could happen from not getting the SP to like you. Find the limiting belief and get rid of it, and remember all of the things you've done to this point. Getting your SP is no different. I know you already have them because you imagined it. It's only a matter of time before you realize that too. Sorry for the long reply. Okay. All right. So, it's interesting point of view. I'm gonna read one last thing. I'll give you another silly way to think about this whole thing. Building that trust with the inner self takes time, like taming a feral cat that you think you have the right to You have to have the right bodily stance and appearance when you do it. So let's say the cat can only be tamed while you're doing a one-armed handstand. That cat being the inner self and the handstand being getting the feeling down properly. If you ever tried or talked to someone who has tamed a feral cat, then you know it takes a lot of work. At first, the finicky cat won't even let you come within 50 feet of it. After a while of seeing it and getting it used to you, you're slowly able to get closer. You probably get there by psst-ing the fuck out of it, like you do a cat, and leaving it treats for food so it'll come back. Then you're able to get close to the cat, and now you make sure that the cat sees that you are the source of the food, and then hopefully one day you can get within 5 feet of it. You do that dance until you approach the cat directly. You made it that far. Next step is giving it a name, starting the process of taming it. You leave food in a bowl, you call its name, and every once in a while you stick your hand out so it can sniff you, if it doesn't just run away or hiss at you. This goes on and on until eventually you're able to pet the cat and then pick it up, and eventually it builds enough trust with you that it never leaves the area of your home, and it comes when you call. It even learns when lunch and dinner time is. Then eventually the cat comes inside your house and is your pet. The whole time you've had to do a one-armed handstand while doing all of this. Sure, it's hard at first to get down, but eventually you build the muscles and habits to be able to do it effortlessly. You got to put that much effort into learning to convince yourself of the law. Visualize big and always do smaller things to help get the cat realize you are its home. Whenever you meet resistance, you figure out why and deal with it. I believe in you. Interesting analogy. All right, guys, I'm going to end the video right here. Interesting takes on all of this. With that being said, drop me with a like, hit me with a comment down below, and let me know your thoughts on this. Hit me with a subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.